Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission here, as always, is to take a huge pile of research, a collection of sources, and just sort of distill the most profound, the most surprising insights for you.
So you can be instantly informed, without having to dig through all the complexity yourself.
And today, we are tackling a thought experiment that is just so massive in scope. It's basically a real-world stress test of our entire modern civilization.
It really is. We are confronting our deepest, most invisible dependencies head-on.
That's right. We're diving deep into a scenario called the 24-Hour Vanishing Act. And the premise, it sounds simple, but it's utterly world-changing.
Okay, so imagine waking up and the first thing you notice is this unnatural calm.
Exactly. The streets are silent, no engines, no honking, no distant rumble of traffic.
Yeah.
Because every single motor vehicle on Earth, and we mean everything.
Your car, delivery trucks, motorcycles, ambulances, fire engines.
Everything with an engine and wheels for the road has just vanished for exactly 24 hours.
And this is the key point. They aren't broken. They're not banned. Nobody stole them. They simply, at the stroke of midnight, ceased to exist.
And our source material for this, which is extensive, it spans sociological studies, logistical models. It tracks this global pause hour by hour.
It follows the immediate fallout, the systemic collapse, and the deeply human consequences of a world suddenly forced into total immobility.
So our goal today is to walk you through that 24-hour journey. We want to understand what the most critical pressure points are, how fast society really unravels when you take away its primary tool of movement.
And maybe what unexpected truths we discover about ourselves when the default mode of modern life, which is just speed, is suddenly gone.
It's a deep look at modern fragility. We'll spend a lot of time on the initial shock, the chaos of those first few hours.
Then we'll analyze the strange societal transformation that happens around the halfway mark.
And finally, we'll try to synthesize the lasting lessons humanity learns the moment the clock strikes 24 and, the world resets itself.
I have to say, reading through the documentation on those first few hours was genuinely shocking. It's not just an inconvenience.
Oh, not at all. It is an immediate, total system shock.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's start the clock 1 second past midnight. So you wake up, and the first thing you notice is the silence.
But it's not just quiet, is it? The sources keep using that specific phrase, an unnatural calm. What does that actually feel like on a global scale?
Well, I think that phrase is the first real signal of system failure. We are so profoundly conditioned to the background noise of traffic.
Right, that distant rumble, tires on asphalt, the low-level drone of millions of engines. You don't even notice it's there until it's gone.
And when it's gone, it leaves a void, a vacuum. The stillness itself feels loud.
And you suddenly hear these micro sounds you haven't heard in years. Distant birdsong, the wind whistling past buildings.
The hum of your own refrigerator. The silence itself is the loudest sign that something is fundamentally, deeply broken.
And then comes the physical evidence. People step outside to go to work, to walk the dog, whatever, and they find these bare driveways. Empty, desolate parking lots.
It's the sheer scale of the absence that defines the moment. It's not just your car that's gone, it's every single vehicle. No trucks, no police cars, no delivery vans, just bare pavement.
And the confusion is so profound because our first instinct is to try and explain it away. Find a familiar box to put it in.
So people go through the motions. The sources highlight millions of people all at the same time reaching for their car keys.
Clicking in the air.
Just clicking, pointing at an empty space, expecting a response. Remote starters beep, they confirm the command, but nothing appears.
It's a total mental short circuit. I think that's the best way to describe it.
And what's fascinating is this sheer volume of that simultaneous behavior. Can you just imagine millions of people all over the world standing there, clicking their keys, staring blankly at empty asphalt?
That shared moment of disbelief is a global psychological event in itself.
Absolutely. And the scramble for an explanation is immediate. Social media just explodes.
And our sources highlight three main theories that start circulating almost instantly. First, is this some kind of hyper-sophisticated massive hack?
Right.
Or second, a global software glitch that somehow only affects cars?
Or the third, and this is the most unsettling one, is it some unknown, maybe even supernatural phenomenon?
And because it was so total, so instant, so clean, it defies a rational, technical explanation. That just amplifies the panic so much more than if the cars had, say, all broken down.
That's such a vital distinction. If they broke down, you'd call a mechanic. If it was a huge traffic jam, you'd just wait.
But a clean vanishing act suggests something completely outside our understanding of cause and effect. That cognitive dissonance, that's what sets the existential tone for the next 23 hours.
Exactly. The initial shock is compounded by this deep mystery, and that mystery prevents any kind of coordinated, rational response at first. Everyone is just trying to solve the puzzle of their own empty driveway. They're stuck in denial. They need to understand the why before they can even begin to address the how of getting around.
Which brings us to hour 2. That moment of individual confusion very quickly becomes a massive collective problem, immediate transportation chaos.
You've got millions of commuters who relied on their car, or a rideshare, or a taxi.
All needing to move at the same time, across cities that were built for cars.
The failure of that personalized transit is instantaneous, and the public transit system just cannot absorb that load. It's not even a possibility.
I mean, think about it. All of that demand, normally spread across millions of private cars and lanes, is now dumped onto the fixed capacity of buses and trains.
And the result is immediate, crushing overload. Buses and trains are packed beyond any safe capacity. They become functionally paralyzed by overcrowding.
Subway systems face cascading delays because the sheer number of people trying to get on and off platforms just overwhelms the system. The doors can't even close.
This isn't just about a crowded train. This is about density, overwhelming safety. And so people are left with only one real option.
Their own 2 feet.
And the behavioral change is stark. People start walking long distances, 5, 10, sometimes 15 miles, journeys they would never, ever attempt normally.
The sources even note this massive spike in online searches for things like blister remedies and hydration advice. It just shows how physically unprepared we are for movement at a human pace.
And this is where the global workforce starts to seize up. Workplaces are just flooded with messages.
The same message in every language, in every time zone.
I am going to be very late today. Critical systems like healthcare shifts, airline crews, factory workers, they're all operating short-staffed or just completely stalled.
The speed of modern commerce is tied to the speed of the automobile, and that speed has just been reduced to about 3 miles per hour.
There's also the breakdown of supporting infrastructure. Traffic lights are still running, but they're regulating nothing. It just creates chaos for the masses of pedestrians now crossing everywhere.
And the roads themselves, these huge, dangerous stretches of pavement, they become the main pedestrian path because the sidewalks are too narrow to handle the crowds.
That's a critical point. We default to walking, the most ancient form of travel, but our modern cities are completely hostile to it.
Hour 2 really shows that while movement is still possible, the friction of it all, the sheer effort, grinds global productivity to a crawl.
And then we hit hour 3. This is where things shift. It goes from inconvenience and frustration to immediate structural danger.
Yes, this is where the grim reality of our dependency really hits home. It's no longer about being late to work. It's about survival.
We move past the individual's problem and into the rapid failure of our collective safety net. The source material here is, it's pretty chilling.
Critical services are paralyzed, and it's not just by the lack of transport, but by the lack of tool carriage.
Let's break that down. Ambulances can't reach patients, and even if a paramedic could run there, they can't carry the heavy equipment.
The specialized stretchers, the oxygen tanks, cardiac monitors, the big trauma kits, all of that is gone.
And police cars.
Yeah.
They're not just for getting around. They are mobile command centers. They're equipment lockers.
And fire trucks? Without them, controlling a house fire is impossible. The thousands of gallons of water, the high-pressure pumps, they've vanished.
The sources say emergency workers are forced to improvise. They're using bicycles, which immediately cuts their effective radius down to maybe a mile or 2.
And running 5 miles across a sprawling suburb to deliver life-saving care within that critical golden hour. It's just not feasible. You lose the ability for towns to help each other because the roads between them are severed.
The sudden gravity of it is terrifying. Think about a simple allergic reaction in a rural area, or an industrial accident that needs heavy cutting equipment.
Things that are normally manageable with a quick response suddenly become life-threatening risks because the element of time has been catastrophically stretched.
It's the moment humanity realizes its extreme absolute dependency on 4 wheels for safety. We designed our whole world assuming rapid motorized access is a given.
And when you pull that one assumption out, the entire complex system built on top of it just fails instantly. We didn't just lose mobility.
We lost time compression. the single most critical resource in any emergency.
And imagine being one of those emergency responders. You have the training, you have the knowledge, but you are physically powerless to use it effectively over any kind of distance.
That must be an incredibly demoralizing feeling.
Well, it raises a huge question. When the tools of intervention disappear, what is the value of your expertise? The sources confirm this massive surge in frustration and ethical dilemmas. Do you try to walk 3 miles to help one person, knowing you can't bring any real equipment?
Or do you just focus on the hyperlocal problems you can actually reach?
Exactly. Hour 3 is the grim realization that our vehicles weren't just transport. They were the foundation of our ability to save lives.
So by hour 4, the crisis broadens again. It moves from personal movement and emergency response to the fundamental infrastructure of survival, the supply chain.
People who manage to get to a store, they realize this isn't just a day of delays. This is a systemic problem.
And the initial reaction, noted in all the sources, is highly localized. People start preparing for the unknown. Grocery stores fill up with people looking for essentials.
They're creating their own little reserves because they recognize, probably faster than any government, that the logistics pipeline has been severed.
But that immediate consumer reaction runs right up against the hard reality of logistics. The problem is simple and absolute.
No trucks mean no restocking. Every shelf is finite. The moment people start clearing those shelves, even without a full-blown panic, that's it. The stock can't be replenished.
This is the moment society realizes that trucks are the true circulatory system of society. Personal cars are a convenience. Commercial transport is life support.
Refrigerated trucks for food, fuel tankers for power stations, specialized transport for medicines, flatbeds for industrial parts, all gone.
And the sources are very specific about the priority items that vanish first. It confirms our instincts under pressure.
Water is number 1. Suggests a deep fear of utility failure.
Then bread, canned goods, then medicine, which underscores the failure of transport for pharmacies and hospitals.
And baby supplies, formula, diapers, always among the first things to go.
This really shows the extreme fragility of the just-in-time inventory model that we rely on.
Oh, absolutely. Most big cities only have a few days of food, fuel, and critical supplies on hand. They rely on a constant high-speed flow of trucks.
And without that, you go from abundance to scarcity in just a matter of hours.
We should also talk about food safety, which the sources touch on. It's not just about empty shelves, it's about what's on the shelves.
Right, the cold chain. Refrigerated goods like milk and meat need that constant, unbroken chain of cooling.
Without refrigerated trucks moving stock, and more importantly, without fuel getting to the generators for storage facilities, huge amounts of food become unusable very quickly.
It's not an abstract economic loss. It's the physical spoilage of necessities.
And then there's waste removal. All the garbage trucks are gone. It's less critical in hour 4, but by hour 24, major cities are facing a catastrophic sanitation crisis.
Because the mechanism for moving waste away from people has vanished.
Hour 4 just confirms it. All urban life depends on things moving in and things moving out. When that stops, the city itself becomes untenable.
Okay, so we're past the initial shock, and we're moving into a state of global stasis. By the time the sun is up around the world, the rules have completely changed.
And this brings us to hour 6 and some of the most surreal visuals of the entire event.
This is when the technology that's designed to manage traffic chaos suddenly reports something impossible.
Right. Navigation apps, things like Google Maps or Waze, they're designed to show red and yellow for congestion. But now they display entire continents glowing an uninterrupted, profound blue.
Zero traffic, zero delays. This isn't just unusual, it's a scenario that has literally never existed in the history of global monitoring.
The algorithms that map traffic density, they have nowhere to go but zero. It's the ultimate confirmation of the totality of the event.
And the visual is almost artistic.
Yeah.
Traffic maps are usually this angry canvas of red and orange, symbolizing frustration.
And blue signifies non-existence, perfect flow. Or in this case, a complete stop. It's an instant, visible representation of the global pause that everyone with a smartphone can see at the same time.
And because we live in the digital age, this is immediately documented. Drone footage starts flooding social media.
Empty highways, silent intersections, deserted bridges, huge abandoned parking lots.
The source material describes it as looking like a movie scene. A post-apocalyptic film where the infrastructure is still there, but the people are gone.
Except here, the people are very much there. They're just standing beside the empty roads.
And that visual confirmation is crucial. It moves the event from my car is missing to the world's cars are missing. It cements it as a shared global reality.
Can you imagine seeing the world's most notorious traffic jams? The M25 in London, the LA freeways, just as empty ribbons of asphalt.
It fundamentally changes how you see that infrastructure. The highway becomes a monument to silence.
And that shared visual, seeing the blue map, it becomes this profound historical record, a timestamp of absolute stillness that will resonate long after the cars come back.
By hour 8, the visual strangeness and the physical problems start to coalesce into a massive, measurable economic problem.
But sources are very plain here. The global economy slows down massively, not just in a few sectors, but across the board.
This is the moment the true cost of immobility gets calculated. Billions, if not trillions, of dollars in goods, services, and capital just freeze in place.
And it's not just lost revenue, it's capital being immobilized. Raw materials stuck at ports, finished goods stuck in warehouses. The flow is just severed.
Operational failures ripple outwards. Factories can't run because parts aren't arriving and because workers can't get there.
The sources estimate that in a country like the U.S., worker attendance drops below 40% in key manufacturing sectors. That means an immediate line stoppage.
And then you see the collapse of supporting industries. All deliveries stop. Not just the Amazon package to your door, but business-to-business supply chains.
Construction halts. Heavy equipment and materials can't move. Agriculture fails because crops can't be transported from fields to processing plants.
The sources reveal this core, unsettling lesson here. The deep fragility of our modern economic systems. They're all built on the assumption of rapid, frictionless road transport.
E-commerce, the darling of the modern economy, essentially collapses for the day. It proves that even the best digital storefront is useless without a motorized logistics backend.
And the financial fallout goes even deeper. Think about all the revenue streams tied to vehicles.
Gasoline sales tax, gone. Parking fees, gone. Highway tolls, gone. For governments that rely on these daily flows, the fiscal shock is immediate.
And then the legal questions start. Insurance companies are grappling with the disappearance of millions of insured assets. What does that even mean for their policies?
That's a key point. It's not that money stops existing. It's that the physical things that money represents, the inventory, the fuel, are all physically stuck. The velocity of money drops to zero when the velocity of goods drops to zero.
Amidst all this chaos, though, Hour 10 provides this stark, almost hopeful contrast.
Yes. Without vehicles, the urban environment undergoes this radical transformation.
This is where the human element really shines through. The city reverts to a pedestrian space, the streets are suddenly free, and they become what they were originally meant to be, public spaces.
And the behavioral changes are immediate and profound. Kids start playing games in the street, in places that were death traps just a day before.
People are just walking freely, without the fear and caution you need to navigate traffic. The city suddenly belongs to its inhabitants again.
And the sensory experience is completely inverted. You hear street musicians without engine noise competing. Their music becomes the dominant sound of the public square.
Neighbors who maybe never spoke are suddenly walking together, sharing this strange experience.
What's fascinating is the sensory shift the sources describe. The air smells cleaner. But more importantly, the noise pollution, that constant subtle stressor, it just falls away.
The city sounds softer, more natural. Many people report feeling this strange, deep sense of peace, even while they're grappling with the logistics crisis.
And I think that peace is tied to the slowing of your internal clock and the reduction of ambient threat. You're not constantly vigilant against a 2-ton metal object anymore.
That nervous energy is released, and it allows for this spontaneous reprioritization of space and sound.
It reveals how much of our public space we willingly give up to machines. When that's removed, the city becomes a communal pedestrian environment again.
The sources even describe small, spontaneous markets cropping up in wide intersections, temporary communities built on pedestrian needs.
Which brings us to hour 12, the halfway mark. The initial shock is gone, the existential fear has settled a bit, and humanity is starting to pragmatically adapt.
Adaptation is the key word here, and our digital infrastructure is what saves us. The technological pivot is immediate and universal.
Remote work becomes the mandatory default. Schools shift instantly to online classes. If you can't walk there, you have to connect virtually.
It highlights the critical difference between the physical supply chain, which failed catastrophically, and the digital infrastructure, which survived. In fact, it became immensely more important.
The internet becomes a sole primary mode of commerce, education, and communication over distance.
And the world adjusts by focusing on what's local. People are using what they have, where they are. The focus shifts entirely to proximity-based activities.
Cooking at home becomes the norm because getting to a restaurant is a huge effort. Family time increases because the hours spent commuting are now free.
Neighbors are walking to nearby places, talking, relying on each other instead of rushing past in their separate metal boxes.
And the unexpected benefit, as documented in the sources, is that life slows down in a surprisingly healthy way.
This isn't just anecdotal. Studies done on this simulation show a marked reduction in self-reported stress levels. It's a collective physical decompression. The rhythm of the city adjusts to the human gait.
It's a forced reversion to a pre-industrial pace, but for a world that's still interconnected digitally.
Exactly. Our desire for connection and productivity is still there, but the constraints of physics, the inability to travel more than a few miles an hour, force those activities into a much tighter, more local radius.
Hour 12 proves that the world can grudgingly adapt to a lack of speed as long as that digital backbone is there to handle information.
And it reveals a profound truth. A lot of what we consider necessary rush is just an engineered urgency created by the availability of high-speed transport. Without cars, the necessity of speed dissolves.
People default to a slower, more deliberate, and ironically more localized existence.
As we move into the second half of the day, the novelty has fully worn off. And the long-term consequences, both good and bad, start to solidify into clear data points.
And this brings us to hour 14, and what might be the most profound systemic change detected, the environmental reset.
The impact on the environment is dramatic and startlingly fast. Let's talk specifics, because the numbers are just staggering.
Air pollution, measured in major urban areas, drops by up to 60%. That is an almost unbelievable figure for a single day.
That 60% reduction is driven by the near-total stop in ground-level generation of nitrous oxides and fine particulate matter.
All the direct byproducts of millions of internal combustion engines. And the recovery is so fast because the source of the pollution is just gone.
And in parallel, the drop in noise pollution is massive, which isn't just about it being pleasant. Chronic noise pollution is a significant public health stressor.
Right, it contributes to cardiovascular issues, anxiety. The sudden silence is basically a therapeutic event for entire populations.
The visual impact follows the data. Skies get clearer. The sources say that in some polluted cities, people report seeing the horizon or distant mountains for the first time in decades.
The atmospheric haze, which is mostly from traffic, it just dissipates incredibly fast when you turn off the source.
It's Mother Nature getting an immediate, profound break. And the speed of that recovery is the revelation. It shows that the planet's systems can respond to a reduced load almost instantly.
There's also an interesting impact on wildlife. The sources mention animals, particularly birds and small mammals, beginning to reclaim urban spaces, moving with a confidence you don't normally see.
Because the constant threatening velocity is gone, the landscape feels safer to them.
Then we reach hour 16. The logistical scramble has stabilized, and people start to reflect internally. This hour is defined by a deep, collective psychological shift.
People begin analyzing their personal relationship with driving. The car is no longer just a tool. It becomes a topic of philosophical reflection.
They're asking, why was I driving so much? Why did I commute so far?
And the internal debate is highly polarized, based on geography. Some people, mostly in walkable cities, are genuinely enjoying the quiet and the slower pace. They feel liberated.
But others, especially those in sprawling suburbs or rural areas, feel intensely trapped. For them, the car's disappearance means crippling isolation. Their world hasn't slowed down in a healthy way. It has just shrunk to an unbearable size.
And a lot of people realize how much driving shapes their identity. The car is an extension of self. It's the freedom of a teenager, the logistical capacity of a parent.
Without it, a core piece of that functional identity is missing.
The sheer magnitude of this event, this forced global slowdown, it forces a profound introspection.
It's the collective consciousness processing the trade-offs of modern mobility. The car, which represented freedom for a century, is suddenly revealed as a powerful constraint.
I think the psychological research component here is vital. It asks a critical question. How much of our stress is generated by the speed of the world around us?
When the world slows down that dramatically, the pressure gauge resets, and you're forced to confront your own internal urgency without any external justification.
And that leads to deep questions about lifestyle choices. Many people realize the massive amount of energy, time, and money they dedicate just to achieving velocity. A pursuit that now, in the stillness, feels incredibly wasteful to some.
As evening approaches, however, that reflective mood has to contend with accumulating failures. Hour 18 is where the hidden catastrophic cost of immobility becomes undeniable.
The emergency systems that were struggling in hour 3 have now reached a breaking point. Hospitals are struggling intensely.
It's a 24-hour backlog of critical, non-transported cases. Surgeries are canceled because specialized staff can't get there. Essential medical transport for dialysis or chemotherapy has completely failed.
Police and fire response times are still terrible. A fire that might have been contained in the morning is now a major threat because you can't get thousands of gallons of water there quickly.
Law enforcement is basically limited to walking patrols. Response to serious crimes is nearly non-existent in large areas.
And a new, unexpected hazard emerges. Accidents on foot increase dramatically.
Right. People are walking far more than they're used to in poor lighting on uneven ground. So you get sprains, falls, injuries from overexertion. And this influx of non-critical injuries puts even more strain on the already overloaded medical system.
This is a crucial transition. The absence of cars has moved from being an interesting mystery to a serious life-threatening challenge. The novelty is gone.
It reveals the profound trade-off. We gained peace and clean air, but we sacrificed essential pillars of safety and medical stability.
Modern society, built on the separation of living, working, and healing spaces, just cannot sustain itself without rapid, motorized intervention.
And this also creates a massive equity problem. The elderly, the disabled, those who are already vulnerable are facing the most severe and rapidly escalating risks. The quiet streets might be nice for some, but for others, it's a crisis of survival.
And yet, despite the growing safety concerns, hour 20 marks another remarkable shift in social patterns. A very strange, calm night.
Cities that usually never sleep start winding down incredibly early. The energy that fuels the late-night hustle, the deliveries, the late commutes, it's all gone.
But social life doesn't stop. It just shifts. Restaurants are full, but they are hyper-local. People walk to the closest available place, creating these vibrant, intimate community hubs.
And parks and public spaces, surprisingly, stay active late into the night. Without the engine noise, with the air so clean, people are drawn outside to enjoy the shared, unusual quiet.
The sources describe it as a stadium effect, where the whole city becomes a quiet, shared public space.
And the qualitative impact is really moving. Families are gathering outside, just talking. People are having meaningful conversations, forced by the lack of distraction and the sheer novelty of the silence.
It truly feels like a global reset button. It's this moment where the pressure of modernity is lifted and human connection is prioritized because there's nothing else to do.
This quiet night becomes the maximum positive expression of the whole event. It demonstrates that the urban environment, when you strip away its mechanical velocity, fosters a slower, more intimate social experience.
That feeling of collective stillness is going to be the hardest memory for people to shake once the cars return.
Now we're entering the final 2 hours. The stillness of the night is being replaced by a deep, heavy sense of anticipation. The experiment is about to end.
Hour 22. The final hours are marked by this heavy silence and a nervous energy. Across the globe, people are checking their clocks, counting down.
And the central questions are causing palpable anxiety. Will they return instantly, gradually, or, most dramatically, will they stay gone forever?
The mystery of their disappearance now dictates this profound uncertainty about their return.
And society is deeply conflicted. On one hand, the yearning for convenience is overwhelming. People desperately miss the ability to get to a hospital to see loved ones. The practical need is undeniable.
But at the same time, there's this real fear about what their return will mean for the temporary peace they found.
Will the noise, the pollution, the rush just instantly flood back and erase the memory of this quiet night? Will they lose that connection they found?
This tension between the life-saving need for cars and the deep longing for a simpler life is the ultimate psychological test of the experiment.
The silence itself now feels heavy, loaded with the expectation of an instant, maybe even violent, return to the old normal.
It's the reckoning. Humanity is holding its breath.
And then the clock strikes the exact 24-hour mark, and the reversal is absolute, instant, and overwhelming.
Cars suddenly reappear exactly where they vanished from. This means vehicles are materializing in driveways, on streets, filling every parking lot instantly.
The sudden repopulation is a massive sensory shock. The unnatural calm is shattered by the mechanical reality of millions of machines reappearing at once. The sound of engines is deafening after 24 hours of silence.
The immediate reactions are a flood of intense, contradictory emotions. People are cheering at the return of convenience. They're crying with relief.
And they're laughing hysterically at the sheer absurdity of the entire experience.
But the operational consequence is immediate. Traffic starts instantly, even at midnight. People who were stranded start driving. Emergency workers rush to catch up on the 24-hour backlog.
And you get immediate gridlock, caused by all that pent-up demand being released at once.
That immediate gridlock is a stark reminder that the pressure of our society didn't go away. It was just frozen, waiting to be unleashed the moment the cars came back. The world rushes back to velocity.
So now that the cars are back, we have this profound shared data set. We can synthesize the core lessons from this experience.
First, and maybe the most painful, is our extreme, undeniable dependency. We depend on vehicles not just for convenience, but for the fundamental functions of life.
Second, the experience highlighted the extreme fragility of our systems. Emergency services, supply chains, they're built for speed, not resilience. They can fail completely in just hours.
The most optimistic takeaway is the immediate environmental response. That 60% drop in air pollution is a stunning scientific fact. It's proof that large-scale behavior change yields instant environmental dividends.
And finally, we learned a deep lesson about the human element. People experienced how peaceful, slower, cleaner, and, well, more human a car-free world felt.
That collective memory of slowness and community stands in stark contrast to the rush they immediately return to.
The whole thing was a forced stress test. It revealed our greatest technological strengths, like digital communication, and our greatest physical weaknesses, our inability to sustain ourselves without motorized logistics.
We maximize velocity at the expense of local physical resilience.
So the cars have returned, the noise is back, the traffic is flowing, but the memory of that unnatural calm of seeing a clear horizon, it persists.
And this leads us to the ultimate question that lingers, the challenge for you to think about. The experiment proved that while we absolutely need motorized transport for safety and logistics,
we also saw a version of life that was healthier, cleaner, and more locally engaged.
So the question isn't whether we can live without cars. The sources prove we can't survive long without them.
The question is, do we drive every day because we need to for most of those trips? Or do we drive simply because we've forgotten that a localized, slower, cleaner, more peaceful, and surprisingly healthier way of life is possible right outside our door?
The world saw an alternate path. The choice now is how much of that forced revelation we choose to intentionally integrate into the next 24 hours and every day after that.
That was truly a comprehensive journey through modern fragility. The depth of the sources provided some incredibly detailed and unexpected insights.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We hope this exploration provided you with some vital and perhaps reflective knowledge about the world we've built.
Until next time, remember that sometimes the greatest insight is found not in speed, but in stillness.
See you in the next video.